All right. I'm gonna start progress. All right, so we'll see if Tamala can join. Let's see. If not, that's all right. We're just gonna go in and keep it moving, and maybe we'll be a little short today, even though
Somebody
we
else just messaged that they couldn't join.
Oh, okay. All right. I see Shantae
Warren,
she couldn't attend.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. Well, we're gonna keep it moving anyway, and people can have the recording if they want. We know what the class is, so I'm not gonna stop here. But what we were going to do today is a combination of, getting into what Tamala brought up last week. I hope she can join us because she really had brought up this idea of talking about imposter syndrome and where are places where we don't always feel like we are
Yes.
supposed to be where we are. And so that is our topic for today. And then I just want to end, with the idea of seeing if
Yes.
anyone, uh-oh, yep. Did somebody call me? Nope. Okay. All right. I thought I heard something. Tamala said she still can't get in, huh? Okay. I wonder why. Huh. Did you all have a problem at all with that? Other than you were sitting in the waiting room, was there a problem with the link?
No, I didn't have a problem.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna see. I'm gonna put it back in here. Um, all right, I'll send it again. So what I wanted to do for the second part is to just see if anyone had any questions. I hope that you all had an opportunity to look over the offer of what it looks like to kind of, continue to move forward. You all have been so incredibly helpful in my thinking around doing this class. And part of this has just been that experimental exercise for me. So I want to thank you for that. And then see if there are any questions or any things that you want to ask about the offer, whether you're interested in continuing, or maybe you just have some feedback that would be really helpful to me. I'd appreciate it. And then, of course, I'm doing a referral process as well. So if it's not for you, but you're thinking, hey, I've got some people who might be interested, if you refer and they join, you get a bonus or a prize, whether it's in cash or whether it's in discount if you decide to do the program. So we'll get to that in a second. And hopefully Tamala will be able to join because what we were going to do today is all about what she wanted to talk about. Last week, we were really into talking, specifically about kind of who we say we are. And one of the things that came out is sometimes I feel like I'm an imposter. Sometimes I feel like I'm in places and I'm wondering like, should I be here? Am I in the right place? Are they gonna come in and tap me on my shoulder and say I need to, this isn't the right thing for me? And I'm sure that a lot of us feel like that in different aspects of our lives. And so we're going to get into that just a little bit. This is just the tip of the iceberg here. But we're going to start and have a conversation about, am I an imposter? Or how do I feel about that? So I wanted to start, and this might give Tamala a little opportunity to join, is to play a video on what imposter syndrome is. Before I push play, when you all hear the word imposter syndrome, like what comes to mind? Because I'm sure we all have our own ideas or definitions, or maybe it's a buzzword that we've heard before. But when you think imposter syndrome, what is there a definition that you already kind of have come to understand what it is?
I don't know. I guess I feel like it's just when you feel like you can't do something or that you're not maybe worthy of or capable of or
Mhm.
doing something.
Yep, yep, absolutely. And where, Joy, where did you first, I don't, where did you first even hear about imposter syndrome? Like, where did your reference point come from?
Honestly, I feel like it was pretty recent, like within the last year or two. And I think it was either television or some YouTube or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. It's so interesting how the computer has such and our access to information or whatever. You scroll, and you're like, oh, what's that? And then you hear about something, and it allows you to kind of go down the rabbit hole to figure out what it is. And you didn't even know it had a thing or a title until
Exactly.
you actually figured it out, right? Okay, all right, sounds good. How about you, Joy? Is that how you became familiar? And are you familiar with the term as well? I mean, not Joy. I'm sorry, Stephanie.
In terms of imposter,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I had the TV on pause, it came back on. I guess, I don't know exactly what that is, but I guess when I look at the word imposter, that's just, being fake, not being authentic to who you really are.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Mhm.
Yep. Well, absolutely. I mean, that idea of imposter is certainly, about authenticity, or, am I who I'm supposed to be, or who who I think I am, right? And so I wanted to play this video because I think it's a TEDx video, and it does a really good job of kind of capturing how, when we use the imposter syndrome term, where it comes from. It actually comes from, psychological research and things of that nature that they have researched over time. So rather than me give my own definition, although I think what you all have offered is absolutely right, let's play this video. I'm hoping that it's going to play for us because, I had that problem before. So let me see. I have it all. I had it on the notes. Where's the notes? All right. Of course, it's not going to play because that's my life right now. All right, I'm gonna pull it up on YouTube, and then we'll play it. It should be really good. And I wonder, as you're thinking about it and you're watching it, I want you to think about, like, have I said or done these things to me, in my life, right? Has this shown up for me? Because if it has shown up for you, then you might be able to put yourself in the space where you're like, yeah, I've done that before, or I've thought about that before. So I'm gonna play it. Right.
After writing 11 books and winning several prestigious awards, Maya Angelou couldn't escape the nagging doubt that she hadn't really earned her accomplishments. Albert Einstein experienced something similar. He described himself as an involuntary swindler whose work didn't deserve as much attention as it had received. Accomplishments at the level of Angelou's or Einstein's are rare, but their feeling of fraudulence is extremely common. Why can't so many of us shake feelings that we haven't earned our accomplishments, or that our ideas and skills aren't worthy of others' attention? Psychologist Pauline Rose Clance was the first to study this unwarranted sense of insecurity. In her work as a therapist, she noticed many of her undergraduate patients shared a concern. Though they had high grades, they didn't believe they deserved their spots at the university. Some even believed their acceptance had been an admissions error. While Clance knew these fears were unfounded, she could also remember feeling the exact same way in graduate school. She and her patients experienced something that goes by a number of names: imposter phenomenon, imposter experience, and imposter syndrome. Together with colleague Suzanne Imes, Clance first studied imposterism in female college students and faculty. Their work established pervasive feelings of fraudulence in this group. Since that first study, the same thing has been established across gender, race, age, and a huge range of occupations, though it may be more prevalent and disproportionately affect the experiences of underrepresented or disadvantaged groups. To call it a syndrome is to downplay how universal it is. It's not a disease or an abnormality, and it isn't necessarily tied to depression, anxiety, or self-esteem. Where do these feelings of fraudulence come from? People who are highly skilled or accomplished tend to think others are just as skilled. This can spiral into feelings that they don't deserve accolades and opportunities over other people. And as Angelou and Einstein experienced, there's often no threshold of accomplishment that puts these feelings to rest. Feelings of imposterism aren't restricted to highly skilled individuals either. Everyone is susceptible to a phenomenon known as pluralistic ignorance, where we each doubt ourselves privately, but believe we're alone in thinking that way because no one else voices their doubts. Since it's tough to really know how hard our peers work, how difficult they find certain tasks, or how much they doubt themselves, there's no easy way to dismiss feelings that we're less capable than the people around us. Intense feelings of imposterism can prevent people from sharing their great ideas or applying for jobs and programs where they'd excel. At least so far, the most surefire way to combat imposter syndrome is to talk about it. Many people suffering from imposter syndrome are afraid that if they ask about their performance, their fears will be confirmed. And even when they receive positive feedback, it often fails to ease feelings of fraudulence. But on the other hand, hearing that an advisor or mentor has experienced feelings of imposterism can help relieve those feelings. The same goes for peers. Even simply finding out there's a term for these feelings can be an incredible relief. Once you're aware of the phenomenon, you can combat your own imposter syndrome by collecting and revisiting positive feedback. One scientist who kept blaming herself for problems in her lab started to document the causes every time something went wrong. Eventually, she realized most of the problems came from equipment failure and came to recognize her own competence. We may never be able to banish these feelings entirely, but we can have open conversations about academic or professional challenges. With increasing awareness of how common these experiences are, perhaps we can feel freer to be frank about our feelings and build confidence in some simple truths. You have talent, you are capable, and you belong. Everyone can use a little extra kick of confidence sometimes. Find out some tips and tricks for boosting yours with this video.
All right. Let me turn that part off. All right. And a short and quick video about what imposter syndrome is. What did you all hear from that? What were the takeaways or lessons that stood out to you?
I think I was surprised. Oh, go ahead. Oh, no, that was me. I think I was surprised to hear that the piece where they said we shouldn't call it imposter syndrome because that limits it somehow, but it's imposterism. Like, what did she say? Imposterism or imposter? I didn't quite
Oh,
catch
I don't
that.
remember the term, but I know what she was referring to. It's like we should be careful to not call it a syndrome. Mhm.
But what, I guess, I don't really understand how calling it a syndrome limits it to one race or ethnic group. I didn't understand that part.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'd have to look up. I question that too. I have to look up like the definition of syndrome
Yeah.
to know medically what that actually refers to. I didn't quite understand that either. Um, but what I loved is that, you know, that we all suffer from this idea of like kind of pluralistic ignorance, that, you know, we doubt ourselves privately. We don't talk about how we personally have doubts, and we don't share those. So we think that we're the only ones that have that same thinking. And so we pluralistically, as a group, we are all ignorant of the fact that we're all struggling with some of these things.
Yeah.
And the solution, or one of them, can be to just talk about it, right? But I thought that was interesting, and that's not something that I had thought about before. Other things that kind of surfaced for you, did you see yourself or recognize imposter syndrome for yourself as you watched the video?
Yeah, I think specifically with regards to becoming a filmmaker, it's like the next, I've been told it's the next logical step since, you know, I have a background in photography, but for some reason, whenever I think about it, it's just like, it seems so massive. Like, it just seems like an identity that's separate from who I am presently, but I know that that's not true, but I still experience that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's really honest. And I think we all kind of had that, you know, have a moment where we start to question, like, wait, am I good enough, or am I supposed to be here? I think there was a line that she mentioned earlier, which was like, people feel that others are just as skilled as they are in that thing. Which, if we're all equally skilled, do I deserve any particular accolades? Because we all are the same. And the reality is, like, there's never, if we use like Maya Angelou as an example, there's never going to be another Maya Angelou. So first, I'm encouraged by the fact that maybe she had her own doubts about her own skills and talents.
Yeah.
But for, you know, for her to just assume like, well, everybody can write. No, everybody can't write. It's like one of those, you have to accept that your strengths are in fact your strengths, and therefore when you get you know, accolades, that they're warranted, right? Because it is a gift that you have, that you've used and perhaps built that muscle over time, that people can recognize the greatness in it. But I thought that was really interesting that even an Einstein or Maya Angelou might still be saying, like, yeah, question themselves.
Yes.
That's humbling to me. How might imposter syndrome stop us from doing what we're doing? Like, well, how does it stand in the way? And I don't know if you all can use an example, a personal example for you. You know, I'll reserve mine, but has it stood in the way in any way of not thinking you're enough or worthy or not in the right place Has that been a challenge for either of you? I know, Joy, you kind of just shared a little bit. How about you, Stephanie?
Taking it off of mute. I don't, I would say no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's,
So tell
it's,
us why, like, because and not everybody, not everybody has to ever feel this way in life, right? So tell me where that, that confidence to know, like, how are you different in that way? We need your
well,
secret.
no, well, and I guess I'm going by the definition, what I feel that an imposter is. And I guess, for me, what would I say? I'm just all about authenticity.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I mean, that's just how I like to show up
Mm-hmm.
and operate.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and if you aren't your true authentic self, then it's just not comfortable. I mean, I think like I had a situation the other day where I met somebody and we were, having an exchange,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought about it, the conversation afterwards, kind of critiquing it. And I was like, ooh, you know what? Note to self, I said a couple of things that weren't, I wouldn't say it wasn't authentic, but well, it wasn't, because there was a couple of sentences that I said that they weren't bad, but that wasn't the picture that I wanted to paint of me, of
Okay.
first impressions.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a couple little simple things about, um, that could be perceived as pretentious, and I didn't want to be that way, if that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense. So, and I haven't had that in a long time, but it made me take a pause moment to just kind of think about, the conversation, how you present yourself. So,
Mm-hmm.
because I would say that I struggled with that in the past, and it was probably just due to lack of confidence, wanting to belong, be a part. And now it's just, I don't really care about that. It's
Yep.
me, take it
Yeah.
or leave it, and if we don't connect, or if it doesn't work, or you don't receive me, then that's okay. It just wasn't
Mm-hmm.
meant to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I'm not, yeah. So yeah, I'm operating in a different space. I don't know, I hope that makes sense, or it's helping your question.
Absolutely. No, I completely there's a wisdom behind that, right? Of like an acceptance of self, a confidence of self, a self-esteem that, like I'm gonna be who I'm going to be. And I also hear you saying, Stephanie, I know who I want to present myself to be. I'm real clear
Right,
about that.
right,
So if I say or do something that's not in line with that, I can check myself and be like, I need to rethink that or reframe
right.
that way so that
I'm
it
just,
does
yeah,
align. But you first have to know,
right.
what
Have
your
that
baseline
awareness.
is, what your
Yeah.
expectation of self is.
Awareness is everything. Now, would I say that because it is, tied to confidence,
Mm-hmm.
am I 100% on the confidence? No.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we
Mm-hmm.
all have to show up and do the work. We know where our deficiencies are, and, things that we have to prove upon. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but, so really what comes with confidence and is self-love. So it all starts
Mm-hmm.
with self-love of oneself.
Yeah, I love that. And I really I think that is at the core, that is what we're questioning about, right? When we say, so I think of the imposter as like one who believes that they're not worthy of where it is that they are, of either the accolades or the position. Or I remember the one time that I think for the most of my life I felt a very strong sense, God-given sense of like who I am and what I'm about, what I'm not about. And I think that's always been really a gift, because I know that's not always the case. But when I got to graduate school, after I left Joy as her teacher and I moved here to Chicago and went to University of Chicago, um, I went to University of Chicago and I was in policy school, and they were doing like really high level math and statistics. And I completely felt like an imposter. Now, that was the reason that I chose the program, because I knew it was going to be quantitatively challenging. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to understand numbers, understand how you can make statistics say what you need them to say, and how you create those numbers, how you interpret them. That was why I went to policy school for sure. And that's absolutely why I went to University of Chicago. But as I sat in those seats and I was doing the math and the statistics, I was like, they did made a mistake. I am not supposed to be here. I would sit in the hall and I would be looking over my shoulder sometimes like, they're going to come in here and knock on this door and be like, hey, Eric, I'm sorry. we misevaluated your application. It was how I felt constantly when I sat in those statistics classes. And it wasn't until I was able to be with other people and we would talk, particularly as people of color in what was a predominantly white, establishment, most of the students white or international students. And there was a small cadre of friends that I created that were people of color. And, we would all talk to each other about our own insecurities about the math and the statistics and the stuff that we had never done. And it was only through that talking that I realized that I'm not the only one. And that changed my perspective on I am supposed to be here. They pulled me in here because they believed that I could do it, but I also believe I can do it. And with that, created a confidence about me to let me feel like, no, I can do this. I can get through this. It completely changed my perspective on what I needed to do to pass those classes, but also I knew I was capable of it. And so I love the idea that what she mentioned in the video is like talking about it is one of the solutions to imposter syndrome because you don't have to feel isolated in it. Right? You don't have to feel like you're the only one that might be thinking, this is really hard, or I'm questioning my skills right now, or I'm questioning my position. But I absolutely knew what that felt like, to feel almost stuck in my own fear that I was not going to be good enough in that space. So that's on my personal experience with that.
I wanted to add something real quick, and I was trying to look it up to see if I could quote it correctly. I think it's Henry Ford. Maybe it was Henry David Thoreau who first said it, but whether you think you can or you can't, you're right.
Yep.
That is so true. And
I think it was Henry Ford. It was Henry Ford. It was gonna be my next quote that I had on my side.
I beat you to it. Oh,
yeah,
no,
you did.
As you were sharing about your University of Chicago experience, I started thinking about NYU, and I'm going to share this. I don't think I've shared this with too many people, but when I first got back to DC I was a grad student at the Savannah College of Art and Design, and I was studying, photography, film, motion graphics, and I decided I really wanted to pursue an MFA in filmmaking. And so I cold emailed the director, the head of the cinematography program one night, while I was still in Georgia, and he was very responsive, and he kind of walked me through the process and said, listen, I don't see why you wouldn't get into this program. I don't see why you couldn't get a scholarship, all of these things. So I made it through all the way through to the final round, went all the way up to New York. Well, New York's not far from DC. I was in DC at this point, but went all the way up to New York and interviewed in person with the director of the film Harriet that came out. She was on my panel, like just sat in the room with the people. And she was one of the people who was like really vouching for me. Like, there are people in this room, Joy, who really, believe in you and love your work, your photography. And I bombed it. I completely bombed the interview. I had so much stress that I was carrying with me at the time. I was working with a set of twins, autistic twins, very young, who literally I would come to work and they would scream from the time they got through that door to the time mama picked them up, just screaming and hollering. And I just carried all of that with me and I bombed it. And I distinctly, the reason I'm bringing it up, I distinctly remember being on NYU and like walking around in the film department and looking at these huge posters of like Spike Lee and all these other directors and feeling like I don't belong here. Like, this is not for me, but it's what I wanted. But in that moment, because I believed that it wasn't. So
yeah, that's why that quote is so I think so salient. And I think another one, I didn't actually use the Henry Ford one, but I was going to quote it or say it. But another one is, it's not what you are that holds you back, it's what you think you are not. And it's very similar to saying, whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right. Right. Because it really all starts with your mind. You talk yourself in that, maybe there was the stressors and the things that was there, for you to be able to be honest and say, like, I was intimidated. I was, I questioned my belonging the same way that I did going into grad school. And so we've got to think about, like, how do we counter that, right? What do we need to say to ourselves? How do we need to think about ourselves differently that allows us to counter that narrative? That will often come up. I call it little Erica. Little Erica is talking and always telling me what I can't do. Right. And everyone has a little Erica in them, for a little person in them, that rooted in something is telling you what you cannot do. But as soon as you tell yourself, as soon as little Erica gets louder than big Erica, then it might stop me from being my best. It might stop me from actually taking the chance to apply to an NYU or University of Chicago, or to accept that position that I could have accepted because I'm telling myself what I cannot do, right? And so we have to be really aware of that voice that is inside and think about how we counter it. So thank you for sharing that, Joy, being really honest about that. So I want to, just give you all some other food for thought about this. I saw this thing that it made me think of, there are different types of imposter syndrome, right? There are different reasons for which we tell ourselves we're not enough, we're not worthy, we're not showing up as our full selves. And so I want you to kind of go through these. I'm not going to read all of these, but one might be that you're the perfectionist, like everything has to be 100% on target and right? And if it's not 100%, if it's not an A+, it's not good enough. That might be some kind of imposter syndrome, because, therefore, if you perform and you don't get the A+, you're like, I'm not good enough, right? The other one is the one that's the expert that says, like, if I'm really smart, I'd already know it. So anytime they don't know, they can't acknowledge they don't know, or they're too scared to ask somebody an actual question when they don't know. And so then, but they inside or internally are telling themselves, like, if I don't know that, then I must not be here for the right reason. So for example, if you took a job and you're thinking you're supposed to have all of the answers as the leader of the team, but there's some things that you don't know yet, you could be questioning, like, am I really supposed to be in this job? How did I get here? Right? The superwoman is the one that's like, I can do it all. I can do everything. If I were really competent, I'd be able to do anything you ask me to. And so they say yes to all of the things, even things that aren't in their lane, and then they fail. And then it becomes the self-fulfilling prophecy that, I thought I can do all of the things, but when I can't, now I'm questioning or questioning myself. The person with the great mind is saying, I judge myself on how easy it comes to me. If it comes easy to me, then that proves that I got it, right? And that proves that I'm worthy. If it's hard, or if it's not quick, and it doesn't come easy, then I must not really know it. I must not be able to get it. They don't have that growth mindset that says, like, I'll get it. I don't have it yet, but I can get it, right? They've got the fixed mindset and thinking that if it doesn't come easy, then I'm not good enough. And then the last one is the soloist, right? The one who believes that true competence is equal to, not having any help. I can't ask anybody for any help. I can't. I don't need, because, if I'm really good at it, if I'm really, showing up well, then I don't need to ask for help. I have to do it all myself. So again, they take on everything. They don't ask for support. They don't lean into their team. And then they drop the ball, and secretly on the inside, they're saying, I probably wasn't supposed to be in the role in the first place. So these are examples that I thought, I felt like all of them resonated in some way, not necessarily with my personal experience, but with things that I've seen, in clients or in people or in friends. And it's helpful to think of it in this construct, because they're different versions of it, but they all fall into the same category of you questioning yourself, questioning your value, questioning your worth, questioning whether your accomplishments are really your accomplishments, if you might have one of these mindsets. So I wanted to see if, I'll leave these up. Do any of these resonate with you personally, or do you know people in your life that maybe embrace one or more of these types of imposter syndrome? Does anything look familiar?
No, for me, sometimes I guess I do have some parts of it because I do. I mean, I'm trying to get better at it and let it go and release it, but being that perfectionist, I don't know if that's that Virgo way.
That Virgo way. That's me.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've come a long way. There's been great improvement, because I
Mhm.
think I just no longer have the energy to be the perfectionist. But
Right.
there's the parts where it will creep up and they'd be like, oh, yep, there's Stephanie. She's back.
Yeah, yeah, I can relate. I can relate. And when you are I won't speak for your experience, but I'm used to doing well in a lot of things, right? And so the times where I'm doing something and I'm not doing it as well, it's probably like, even today trying to get online, and I'm like, I'm usually always ready and on time. So the fact that I'm not on time, or last week the internet goes out on me and it didn't work exactly the way, that throws me off. And I'm like, oh my God, am I over my head? Do I need some help? What is going on? And I can hold on to it for too long. So that is a work in progress for me as well. I've learned it's not about perfection, it's about doing your best. And I try to reinforce that with my children, especially my daughter, who's always trying to, like, if I don't get all A's, I'm not worried, like I'm questioning myself. But that is definitely something that I struggle with. How about you, Joy? Anything up there that resonates with you?
Yeah, definitely the perfectionist, and I think that that's what leads to me feeling stuck and stagnant. I know definitely whenever I'm in school, like I'm, in a formal program in school, I definitely, for some reason, I bought into this notion that I have to make straight A's, and if I don't, like, well, I don't know, I keep going until I do, even if it's unhealthy, even if I'm staying up all night, or it's just, and I don't really know where that came from. I mean, in undergrad, I definitely didn't have straight A's, but grad school, it was just like I put all the pressure on myself. Nobody else did it but me.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. Well, we have to just at least be having awareness about it, right? And so if any of these kind of, feel like sometimes I'm the soloist, the person that's always like out here trying to do it by myself. And then I have to check and say, am I showing up as my best self if I'm doing that? And what's under, like, I think I like your question, Joy, of what's underneath that, right? Like what is beyond. And I think for me, as when I'm drifting between the perfectionist and the soloist, what's underneath the soloist is sometimes I'm not certain that if I ask for help, I'll get the help that I need. So then I have to pursue that, and I have to think about that, and I have to question, like, why do I feel that way? Have I before asked people for help and haven't gotten the help I needed, and now that's the story I'm telling myself? If so, I either need to get some new people around me, or I need to change my story, right? That actually there have been people in my life that I have said, hey, I need some help with this. They could really help me, and then trust that they will come through. But we have to first understand or have the awareness that these things might be showing up, and they show up in different ways, or at different times. So I hope that gives some food for thought, about, how imposter syndrome might show up, because it does, it can become, think of that self-fulfilling prophecy. If this is how I'm thinking, and I'm somewhere deep in me, I'm actually questioning, like, my worth, my value, what I can or can't do. And these become how that shows up, you know, that what it means is subconsciously I'm thinking, "Ooh, am I gonna be able to do this?" Right? And then when it shows up and I can't do it, it's almost the self-fulfilling prophecy that, see, I knew I wasn't ready for that. Or, see, I knew if I asked for somebody to help out, and that's on me, right? And so we start telling ourselves a false narrative that frankly is not in line with what makes us our best self, but also is not in line with what I think God tells us we are. We're great. We're fearfully and wonderfully made, right? But we should also ask for help. We should also say, be humble enough to say, I don't know what the answer to that is, because we don't have to have it all. We can also say, like, hey, I didn't get an all A's. I got a B, but I tried really, really hard and I did my best. So thinking about how these things show up for us, I think are really important in us understanding how we move through the world and how we show up as our best. All right. Any other questions about that? We're going to maybe end it. Oh, I'm sorry. I have one more thing. Just some strategies that I've learned help for you to defeat imposter syndrome. We talked about the one over here on the right first, which was talk about it. If you're having some questions about your value, your worth, or how you're showing up, you got to talk about it, because you'll realize, number one, you're not alone. Number two, people will affirm that, no, Joy, actually, you really are like the people at NYU. We're for you. You really are dope. And then you have to start to believe what it is, not only that people say, but what about yourself to be true. So talking about it certainly helps. Listing your achievements. Has anybody ever done that? Let me ask you this. Have you ever stopped to write down the things that you do well? Have you ever stopped to write down the things that you do really well, or the things that you have achieved in your life? If not, I'm going to encourage you to take a moment at some point soon to do that.
Okay.
Because writing down your achievements is like your receipts. Like, I like to tell people, like, if you are doubting yourself, write down your receipts of when you actually did that thing. You're questioning yourself now, but when have you overcome a hurdle before? You're questioning yourself now, but when have you actually done these things before? Remind yourself of how great you are by writing down your achievements, and then you won't question your greatness or your value or your worth.
Okay.
Value your own perspective. Like, Joy, when you were thinking about the going to NYU or whatever, did you know that you had a unique perspective coming into that space?
I think
Did
I
you-
downplayed it.
You downplayed it. Say a little bit more.
Well, like, I know that I'm what is it, fearfully and wonderfully made. Like, I believe that. I believe all of us
Mhm.
are. And I
Yep.
know that I have a unique background, especially coming in, having, worked as a special ed teacher, having worked, as a behavioral therapist, working with autistic population, having, done all of those things, but then also my upbringing and just everything about me. Like, I knew all of that, but I guess I didn't focus on the right things during that interview. I think I focused on, maybe my flaws, or maybe some of my fears, or just, feelings of not being worthy. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a trick, right? We know that's a trick of the enemy, to steal, kill, and destroy everything. In this case, your joy, your confidence, right? And so I asked you, that, but I also, challenged myself to think about, like, value the fact that your perspective is so unique. There's only one Joy. There's only one Stephanie Farrell. There's only one Erica Harris. And that particular narrative that makes you who you are, and that those values, those characteristics, those strengths, all of those things, your perspective is so unique. So when you're questioning, should I be here? Well, of course I could, because only one person in the world, in the whole universe, only one person could bring the perspective that I have. And that alone makes me unique and remarkable. And so I'm going to show up as that, right? Just valuing that you have a unique perspective to bring, no matter where you are and no matter where you sit. I remind myself often when I'm at a table and it's kind of like, there may be many people at a boardroom table and I'm the only person of color, or I'm the only woman. I remember telling myself, but if they don't hear from you, Erica, you're leaving the people that you represent behind. So value your perspective when you're in that room of all white men, because they haven't heard from a Black woman who has your insight. Or value your perspective when you come to a table where you're the only person of color, or you're the only person that lives in an urban area and they're trying to make decisions about, urban education.
yeah.
So your perspective is unique and and valuable. Always value that I'm the only one that can say what I'm going to say in the way that I'm going to say it, of course, or do. And then the last one here is just embrace your strengths. It's similar, but it's thinking about what are the things that I do better than anyone else, or that I do really, really well, that maybe don't come easy for other people. And the thing about your strengths is that they are the very things that you do that you actually don't consistently think about. They come so naturally for you that you just do them. They're just who you are. But that is the definition of a strength, the thing that you can do almost flawlessly every single time without really having to think about it. Doesn't mean that you don't work hard at it, but like it just comes more naturally to you. Once you embrace them, then you recognize your value and your worth. Anybody have anything to add to that? Other things that you can think of that might help you overcome imposter syndrome, questioning yourself, your value, your worth? All right. Well, I hope that that is a valuable for those who are here, but for also for those who are going to be listening in on the conversation. I encourage you to, really think about how these things are already showing up and you're already doing them, and to try to name at least one way that you may want to defeat imposter syndrome in your own life. And if it's not showing up for you, maybe there's some advice or some suggestion or, consultation that you can give to somebody else. If you saw somebody else in what we just went through, encourage them to find just one way that they might be able to defeat imposter syndrome. Maybe it's I'm gonna write out the list of all of my achievements and accomplishments. Because for some of us, we're doing so much that we never pause to say, you know what, I did that. I
Yeah.
really did that. So even the post that you're making, Stephanie, about cycling, the fact that you posted it is an acknowledgement that I did that today.
Yeah. Yeah.
And those small things, like they build a confidence. And so the next time you post, like I did it again and I did it again. And not only then are you inspiring yourself to look back and say, look what I did, but you're also inspiring somebody else that's watching, which is also another receipt that you can carry with you. All right. So thank you all for that conversation. I know we got a small little group, but I like intimacy, so that's good. I'm going to shift just the last few minutes, and we're not going to go through all of these, but just to see. In fact, I'm going to turn this off. I'll leave it up. You all know that part of this beta class that we've been doing for the last 4 weeks, which is going to continue starting May 18th. I'm going to take a couple of weeks off because I'm going to try to, bring in other participants into the class, people who haven't been here for the beta class. And going to invite them. That includes anybody that you refer, and of course that includes you. But we're going to take a couple of weeks. We're going to start on May 18th, and then we're going to meet every Thursday and continue these kinds of classes. Although when we get into them, there's going to be probably a little bit longer than 60 minutes, because one thing I recognize is you all don't get as much time to talk to one another when we're just at 60 minutes. So we might be 75 to 90. We'll have to decide or play with that time. But it's a 12-week program. That's 3 months. That this one would go from starting in May, but because of a vacation that I have, will go all the way to August. It comes also with a online digital core program, which is really about the understanding of self and understanding the foundational pieces, I think it is, to understanding who you are. We're going to do a vision board. We're going to do 2 coaching sessions with me directly. So the stuff that you can't do in group session, you would get to in some of the one-on-one time, self activities, a journal, personal self-assessments around personality and strengths, and then of course the private Facebook group. All of that is coming with my offer, along with all of these bonuses, which I won't go through, except to say, if you are really looking for somewhere to actually invest in an ongoing coach, that 20% discount is really going to be valuable, because any a session that you book with me one-on-one beyond the 2 or 3 that you get with me will be 20% off for the next year. So it comes with a lot. I believe in giving more than I receive. So it's going to come with a lot. The value together is about $15,000 altogether. I'm going to skip through this one. I'm offering it to everyone in the public, not for those of you in the beta class, for those of you going to hear the recording. To everyone in the public, it's going to start at $29.99. But for you all, is going to be $19.99. And I'm just re-emphasizing that this is as low as it's probably going to go. Every other program that I have done in terms of coaching has started really kind of more at like $28.99. But I really wanted to do something that was enticing, that made you say, like, this is going to give me a whole lot for a very reasonable price. And so it's going to be at $19.99 for anyone who was in our beta group. That includes you all on the call and anyone who listens, who was in a part of the group. And of course, I know who all of you all are. If you pay now, it's $19.99. If you pay, up front, and I'm throwing in an extra coaching class that we can do for one-on-one. So you get 3 coaching sessions for $19.99 plus all of the stuff I just mentioned. If you're paying later or paying over time, it is going to be $24.99, but you can do that in 4 payments, or you can do it in installments, because I'm going to set up a financial or a financing plan, which would be $24.99 plus a little bit of interest, but it's a really low interest loan that they're offering folks. And so while I'm asking for people right now, is to let me know if any of this is something that you are interested in. And if you are interested in, I want to hear from you, and we can talk offline about what that will look like and how you want to pay. I don't want you to say that on the line. Keep in mind, I'm also, if you refer a friend, that's $100 either in cash to you if they sign up to me, or $100 discount off of your cost if you offer any friend who is like, yes, I'm in, and they sign up. So that would get you also a bonus. And so if this is something you are interested in doing, for anyone either on the call or listening, please text "I'm ready" and your name to the number on the screen, 872-278-6572. And if you're saying like, yeah, you know what, I want to talk about it a little bit more, I need a little bit more insight on how this might fit, how it aligns with my goals, then let's set up a free call to be able to do that. And so the link is here, and I'll put it in the email. And for those of you who are on the call, I can put it in the chat in just a bit. But I want you all to know that I'm really, really excited about this. I'm gonna probably only take 10 to 15 people. This isn't gonna be a large group. It's gonna be a 10 to 15 people at a time, because I wanna really be able to give you all the attention. And I can't do that if it's big. So we're talking about a limited number of people. It's gonna be very intimate, just kind of like what we've done in the last couple of weeks. And I hope that some of you would be interested in joining, because I know, given what we've talked about so far, there's a lot that I can offer to you as your coach, but also a lot that you all can offer to yourselves. It's going to be a great community of people that we can lean into and learn. So let me pause here and see if there are any questions before we get ready to go. I'm going to follow up and send you all of this so that you can sign up or register or ask questions or ask for the call. Any questions that we have before we go today? Oops. Any questions at all? No?
No, it's just 2 of us on here now.
Yeah, it's only a couple of us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to put in the chat the link to a call if you want to set up a clarity call with me and just say, hey, Erica, let's talk about this a little bit further. That link is in the chat. And of course, I'm going to put it in the email as I follow up with the recording for those who are listening. And the only thing that I would ask is 2 things. Number one, I want to end with you all giving me some feedback. Like, what has this been for you? What you learned? What are you taking away from it? Any suggestions? And then just ask that if you have anyone in your circle that you're like, they could really benefit from this, please share it with them. I really would appreciate it. I know that this is going to grow because of the people who have experienced me and experienced the class. So any feedback that you all would like to give me, I am open to receiving it, because the perfectionist in me knows that there are things I can do to be better.
Well, I'm going to speak real quick because I need to get running. I got to get to the store here before it gets. I don't like being in the city here at night.
I understand.
But, I would say that I enjoyed it. When I saw it posted, I thought, oh, let me see what Erica's up to. I think you needed 20 people or something. You needed a number. And so I said, okay, I'll support, and I check it out. So I thought it was insightful. I thought it was good. I like your PowerPoint presentations and, some of the things that you were bringing forward. So yeah, I think that you're on point. Now for me, I know I won't be able to participate at this time because I just signed up for a rites of passage course with Ayana Vincent.
Oh, good.
And because I've been doing a lot of her. Well, I did start off a couple of years ago through COVID, her warrior classes, spiritual warrior.
Yep,
So,
I remember that.
Yeah, so I'm one of her leaders over the Firm Faith and Trust Tribe. And so, like today, I was just looking at the dashboard that all is expected for this going forward. And it's no joke. So
Yeah, it's a lot.
we're doing the pre-work now that started on April 15th, which I signed up, I think, a week later after that, my girlfriend and I.
Mhm.
So I'll be going through that. What is it? I think she officially kicks off June 1st,
Okay.
even though we have all this pre-work. So
Right,
the
right. And
lessons
that,
just
yeah, her
continue.
program is really intense in that way.
Yeah,
So
this
I-
this is a little bit more than what I was like, because I knew
Biting
she
off a
always
lot.
worked us. But yeah, I'm really getting ready to do some work. But this will be really good. There's some healing, there's some things that I need to do.
Yeah.
And, so this will be for 9 weeks up until August.
Okay.
And we have a graduation ceremony in North Carolina where we'll go and meet with her and the leaders.
Oh, good.
So yes, I'm going to be tied up pretty much most of the summer.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
right
Well, please
now,
let
good.
I thank you for that, Stephanie, and thank you for trusting me and being here during that space. And
Yeah,
I'd love to kind of pick your brain on, kind of some of the things that Sister Ayala is doing. She's so dynamic. So I know what you're going to get is going to be really, really powerful.
yeah, yeah. It's going to be, it is. I've taken a few of her things, and she holds you accountable. It's no joke. I mean,
Mhm.
just like right now, like just my intentions and what I'm looking to gain and putting all this together, it's like it's a class. It's a class for sure. So certainly feel free to reach out. Um,
Mhm.
and then blessings to you. I love your sweet spirit, your willingness to help women. I've enjoyed the group of women speaking up and being authentic and sharing. I can't recall the young lady, but a couple people spoke up when you got disconnected last week.
Uh-huh.
And that was
Love
just a
that.
really good exchange,
Mhm.
Um, and I've talked to a couple people in the breakouts. I
Mhm.
like those. They were really good to just kind of get to know each other and
Yeah.
to share. So, I mean, you have women of substance that you're bringing in to this, and
Mhm.
they provide great value. So, I know you could do your thing one-on-one, but I like the connection that you have with the women in the small group.
Yeah.
They're all
Mhm.
significant, and they
Yep.
all bring something to the table.
Yeah.
And that just helps everybody grow. You grow, we
Mhm.
all grow,
Yeah.
because nobody knows everything, but you have to have a leader, you have to have someone to facilitate it and keep it moving, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, making sure that people's needs are being met, or, that things are being addressed that they need.
Yeah.
Because women need this,
Yeah.
we need these communities, we need to connect, we need to talk and have conversation to
Mhm.
support and moving things forward.
Yeah, I so appreciate that. And it was, I know Joy has to go. It was humbling to me that you all continued your conversation. And the takeaway that I got from that, as frustrated as I was, that I was like, oh, it's getting cut off, was that community was strong enough that people were able to kind of have their own conversation beyond me. And it should be that, right? And so it reminded me to create more spaces for that, more breakout groups, more, of people talking to one another, and that'll be something that I take forward. So thank you so much for that, and for all of the feedback. It's just really helpful. It's a reminder also. I mean, absolutely planning on doing more of the pre-work and launch exercises as we go into the larger class. And so the fact that that with Ayala's group that is a part of you getting ready is really powerful. Like, just in terms of like it's casting your intention, and that helps you to prepare for what you have ahead. So that's a good reminder.
Yeah, she is she's no joke. I paid a little chunk for this rites of passage, and I was curious to what all we were going to get. There's a lot of
Hmm.
work she does free or at minimal cost, right?
Right.
Or when you're already in her tribe, you'll get discounts, but baby is on. I get back from the store, I'm gonna reach out to my girlfriend Crystal and be like, she's in Jersey, she's in the tribe that I'm in.
Okay.
Girl, get ready.
Right. Get
But
ready.
just a shopping list to prepare for it. And, I've
Oh
been ordering
wow.
my stuff. And I talked to her the other night. I'm like, have you ordered your stuff? Like, you got to be on task. And just the intentions and I don't know, I've just printed off so much stuff today of how I'm feeling. And,
Mhm.
there's this whole chart and work on ego, because she's all about get your ego out of the way. She's already gotten on me in the past about procrastination because that means you're operating in fear. She
Mhm.
doesn't play. And so we just got a lot to prepare to do. And so on this dashboard, you have to check off the modules and
Okay.
what you do and submissions and, cut off at a certain time. I don't see that yet on this one, but it
Mhm.
could be. So we'll see how that works. I
Right.
just want to be on point. It's gonna take a little bit of time here. I'm glad I'm doing my vacation before it starts.
You got some fun and then go there.
Even though I'm gonna be looking at it, because she doesn't play. So
Yeah.
we'll be broken up in groups. And so the rites of passage, she's gonna be talking a lot about things that women needed at the age of 20, 30, 40, 60. And now that I've
Mhm.
marked 60, I'm sure that there's a lot of things that I've just missed out on my walk. So
Mm.
we're going to peel back the onion, go in that. I think she's going to put
Mhm.
us in age groups. And, on the call that we had, she was introducing various leaders. So I don't know what leaders we're going to be in, but we'll be
Mhm.
in a group setting. We'll be meeting with our leaders. And then Mama will come on. I think she's going to do us just once a week.
Okay.
And, so I've just learned with her in the past, she just doesn't play. You got to have
Yeah,
your
she's
in the road.
serious.
You got
She's
to be
really
accountable. Yeah. Well, and
yeah.
because as your clients, if you want to support them, if you give them assignments, they got to do the work.
That's right.
You don't want them to be paying for them to do the work on the next call.
Right.
They got to
Right.
prepare and give some thought, because, really they're wasting their time,
Mhm.
and their money,
Yeah.
if they don't prepare. So,
Right. Right.
um,
Or waiting
yeah,
for you as the coach to fix everything. And the reality is, I
right.
tell people, I don't have your answers, honey. You have your answers. My job is to help pull it out of you. But
Right.
as you do the work, that's where it's going to happen. It's not going to happen through me telling you what to do. So,
Exactly. And that's what people
mhm,
want a lot of times. I used to be that, like, fix my life,
mhm,
And what I learned in my spiritual warrior class a couple of years ago is you got to do the work.
that's right.
So
Mhm.
when Mama
You're right.
says, I want you to watch this movie and tell me what it means to you. What is it? What did you pull
Mhm.
out of this? Or the books, I've already got my books for
Right.
the class too. Because then all we have to do the dashboard and all the assignments and listen to things and write things. Because she really wants us to be consciously aware. You got to read all the books too. So
Mhm. Yeah.
yeah. So you gotta do the work, because life is a
Mhm.
journey. And so I yeah, I'm just willing to step up and do the work and still live.
Well, I so appreciate it, and thank you for sharing that. That just it inspires. There are certain coaches out there I follow. Ayanla is one of them. Lisa Nichols is another.
Yeah.
Brene Brown. Like I follow them, and of course, what I'm doing is not nearly as big, but I like their methodology and their approach, and they take it very seriously because they're
Yeah.
really wanting to help women to get, or help people, maybe not even just women, but get free. And
Right.
I don't,
Exactly.
we don't need to stay where we are. We got to move, but that requires some push.
Right. And some
And I
desire.
appreciate that.
Yeah. And they're
Yeah.
really on point. I spent a little time with Lisa Nichols too. And yeah, she
Hmm.
doesn't play either. And her energy is very high. Like,
Yes,
oh.
all the time. She is real
Yeah,
sweet.
yeah. Very strong women. There's a lot of different coaches out there doing a lot of different things.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it is. Well, thank you so much, Stephanie. I love you. Thank you so much. Wish you well on your journey with Ayanla, but also with your health stuff. Like I know that's a real priority right now. And
mhm.
yes, I'm inspired. Perhaps I will go get a bike because I really have said like I need to do that. I love doing it. So
Yeah.
maybe it's time. Maybe this is the summer.
Yeah, I'm in that club, the Black Girls Do Ride. My friend Celeste is over that. And
Okay.
I wanted to get a new bike during COVID, and it was hard to get them. And
Right.
now you
Exactly.
can, but I
Hmm.
just I kind of fell off track. So I know, like, on one of the posts, Cindy was like, oh, because I introduced her to Celeste and she's been doing the riding, and they want me to do, the bike rides down here along the lakefront. So,
Mhm.
I don't know. I'm not quite there yet. I mean, I will be. I just taking baby steps. I just
Yeah.
love the fact that I have the desire to get up and to go to the gym.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
And I have a gym here in my condo building.
Oh, that's nice.
But I wanted to get out,
Mhm.
Well, I had the thing with LA Fitness, so I can go to any of them, like on
Okay.
Canal Street. I go to the one on 35th Street. So
Mhm.
that's a blessing to kind of pop around, and it keeps it exciting and trying
Right.
different
Right. You
muscles.
don't get bored with it. Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
hope, so maybe I'll shed a few pounds. My son graduates in a week, and
Oh, wow. Exciting. From
and
where?
then, huh?
Where is he?
Loyola.
Okay. All right. Great. Well,
Yeah.
congratulations. That's great. So we're moving into a whole different phase of life right now. No, he's been gone, but now like he gone now.
Right, right, yeah. If you could take it off recording for a minute, I'll share
Oh,
some.
sure. Yeah, absolutely. I forgot that was on. Let's see.